everyone. Thanks so much for joining me for this week's episode of When I Grow Up. On today's episode, it is my pleasure to welcome this person really needs no introduction, but Jennifer Chung. Hey, Jennifer, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. You've been so gracious with me transitioning to my new home and being patient with me, but I've been really looking forward to this.
Yes, me too. No, it really is my honor. It's really crazy. I think we were just talking about it before we started recording, but so just a little background from my side. Jennifer and I, we met briefly a couple times when we went to UCI together in college. My roommate, Grace, was were you guys in the same ministry or something? I don't even know how you guys
Yeah,
met
was
each
it CCM?
other. Maybe. And then, we met briefly then. And then all of a sudden she showed up in Atlanta and I'm like, what are you doing here?
I asked myself the same thing.
But I'm sure you can tell us that story in a little bit. But before I get into the details of your life, Jennifer, could you tell me what is it that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think a umbrella term could be multi-hyphenate / creative entrepreneur. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm an actor. I actually do social media management strategy with a few brands or do consulting. But I recently founded a company called Today Worthy, where I do life and creative coaching. And we've built a community online. So even if they're not my one-on-one clients, we have a private community where we do monthly calls and just be there for one another and create a safe space.
That's amazing. I definitely want to talk about all of the things. But I'm trying to think where to even get started. But for me, if you don't mind, even just going back to the beginning. So this is what I remember of Jennifer Chung in 2007. Okay. It was YouTube was just getting really popular as far as just people putting themselves out there creatively, I think. And then I remember someone showed me a video of you and this other guy singing these Disney songs. Do you remember this?
I mean, I have a few videos, so I'm imagining which ones you might have seen.
It was like a contest or something.
Okay, yeah, it was probably the Little Mermaid.
Yes, that was it.
Yeah, give us your voice contest. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this girl is so good and really ballsy. Because, first of all, your presence on this YouTube video was demanding. And you were just looking straight into the camera. And I was like, who is this girl? And then someone said, she goes here to UCI. And I'm like, okay, is she okay? Do we have a Broadway thing here? Do we have a musical thing here? But at UCI, what did you study?
I was a theater major.
You were? Okay, see, I was completely clueless on that world.
In UC Irvine, there's UC Irvine, and then there's the School of the Arts, which is connected separately. So we were definitely away from everyone else.
Oh, I did not know you were a theater major.
Yeah, I was a theater major.
That's awesome. So do you recall this, the YouTube stuff that I'm talking about?
Yeah. So when I was a freshman in college, BroadwayWorld.com was doing a Give Us Your Voice contest because the Little Mermaid musical was going to be on Broadway.
Uh-huh.
And the grand prize winner would get to go to New York, watch the musical. It'd be treated by them. You get to see the album recording and meet Alan Menken, who's the composer of all the Disney classics. And I just put my name in the running by submitting this video, and I got, everyone's support to vote for me. And by that time, I created a small community of followers and supporters on YouTube, and they would vote for me. And I ended up winning that year, and I got to go to New York for free for the first time. And, yeah. And
that is amazing.
I was 17. Maybe I was 18 at that point, but I remember going to the studio and watching them record and meeting Alan Menken and thinking wow, you could do anything you put your mind to.
Yes.
But that was before experiencing all the hardships it takes to be an artist. But it was a great kickstart to my college career.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting what you just said, like acknowledging all the hardships. And I feel like, for me personally, I'm kind of excited to hear about your journey, um, a little more in detail, just because, I think on the outside, if you don't know anything, right? It's like, it looks like, oh, they just get to make music all day, right? Like, or like, oh, they get to like, play all day. But I know that it's much harder work than that alone. So I guess, could you take me back to the beginning? Like, so clearly you decided to study theater because you wanted to be a performer. Am I right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so I come from a very atypical Korean background where my mom is a dance teacher. She actually like got her master's in modern dance. And my dad was a comedian turned singer turned activist. But at the time, I was born in Korea, and when we moved to America, it was because my dad got a radio job as a DJ.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and then my mom opened a Korean dance studio in the Bay Area. My parents split when we were really young, but I grew up doing Korean traditional dance with my mom and performing all the time. So the stage was a very familiar place. So I grew up dancing, but my real passion, I think, was singing.
Mm.
And because of singing, I got into musicals. So I would do musical productions in high school. I was also like jazz band singer, all those things. And the thing is, like, my mom was a single mom in the Bay Area, which is very
Mm.
expensive, raising two kids on her own, my brother and I. And I just knew it was going to be a really rocky road ahead of me if I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to pursue art. And a part of me really didn't want to do it because I didn't want to live the life that we were living. We moved physically every year just to stay in the good school district. Um, and I was just surrounded by people who had normal jobs and like
Mm.
had their parents together, but this was all I knew, right? So for me, like going into school, I was interested in studying theater because I knew I loved it.
Yeah.
And I felt like if I was going to go to school for something, it should be something that I'm going to enjoy so I could see it through.
Wow, that's amazing. I feel like what you said though, that like moment of, is this the life that I want? The one that I'm living right now, but yet you boldly decided that this is something I love. It takes a lot of courage, and I admire that a lot. That's really awesome. So
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, so okay, so you start studying at UCI,
Mhm.
and what was that like? What is it like to be a theater major? I have no idea.
So here's the thing, like the summer before college was when I uploaded my first YouTube video.
Okay.
And it was because I moved from my hometown to another city in the Bay Area and I didn't drive. And the summer before college is when you're supposed to hang out with all your friends. But I couldn't because I didn't have a car. And so I started recording YouTube videos just for fun, just to share my music. And my friends would say, "Oh, we miss hearing you sing." And then slowly it started like picking up steam. And then I went to UCI and I could tell like people were recognizing me, like
Yeah.
saying that they watched my videos and stuff. So in the midst of that, I was going to school and I was studying theater. You know, you take acting classes, you take classes about um, like like playwriting. You
Hmm.
learn a lot of things, but when it comes to if you want to focus on being an actor, there are different routes that you can take. Like I personally thought I was going to get a BFA in musical theater, like that's what I wanted to pursue. But because YouTube had continued giving me opportunities to perform, every weekend I would be performing somewhere. So it'd be like Monday through Thursday I'm at school. Friday I would fly out to another college and I'd perform on a Saturday, come back Sunday, and that was
Oh,
like school.
wow.
Because
Wow.
at that time, like a lot of like Asian American organizations would book me to perform. Because in California, as you know, there's a lot more Asian Americans.
Yes.
And so we're spoiled with a lot of representation in terms of our community, like our inner community, maybe not in like mainstream media, but I'd get flown out to like Florida, Texas, Chicago to perform for these student unions that represent Asian Americans. So that took up a lot of my time. And I started songwriting in college with Johnny, who lived in my dorm room.
Oh my goodness. Okay. That's
Hmm.
really cool.
Yeah, so I like did everything that I could when it came to doing as much theater as I could. Like I was
Yeah,
in a few productions, but I was constantly on the go. And on top of
sure.
that, like I'm sure you know as a UC Irvine alum that the dance community is strong there too. And I was on an
Yeah.
exhibition hip hop dance team too. So I was just everywhere.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so I have a question about your YouTube's like start. So like at what point were you like, oh, this is taking off?
Well, there was a video cover I did of No One by Alicia Keys.
Uh-huh.
And it was my first video to hit like 1 million views.
What?
And it was because it was featured on like a hip hop website. And
Oh
they were
my
like, check out this
gosh.
Asian girl singing Alicia Keys. They didn't say I was good. They didn't say I was bad. They just said, check out this Asian girl.
Okay.
So I do think I was like in the brink in the early start of Asian American or Asian in general singers on YouTube.
Yeah, no, I mean for sure. For sure. Um so okay. Um I mean I mean you can choose to be as transparent as you want at this moment, but yeah, I mean I'm curious. Like so this happens and like what was like kind of the emotions that came over you in that moment?
It was like exciting,
Uh-huh.
but it's also scary because there's a lot of people that are like keeping their eyes on you that may not want the best for you, right?
Sure. Yeah.
It was an early start to the criticism that you get for putting yourself out there.
The haters.
The haters, or even like people who are just not used to seeing representation of Asians, you know?
Really?
Yeah, I would get comments like, oh, you'd be so good if you didn't have that accent. But I'm like, I don't have an
Stop.
accent. But then
Stop it.
they're just hearing what they want to hear, or
I
they're
think
hearing
I'm
what they
like
see.
so honestly, I think if I'm honest, like I'm so sheltered and naive, right? I know that it happens, but like I'm like why do people have to be like this? But anyways, that's for another
No, yeah.
podcast, I think. But,
No, but it was like an early experience of like, I mean, that's like mild, right?
right,
That's a
right.
mild version of like the things that people hear online. And it's always a risk to share what you've got going on, whether or not you're a singer. If you're
Hmm.
in the public eye, if you're sharing what you're doing, there are going to be people who say things that aren't as helpful. And it's up to you to decide if you're going to let that stop you or if it's going to make you stronger.
So when these things happen, I'm sure in the outset of it, like it made you feel a certain way. How did you like overcome, or how did do are you is your personality more like forget it, it doesn't matter, I'm do what I want, or did you have someone to talk to, or
It's hard because I would say my closest friends were not creatives.
mm-hmm,
There was
mm-hmm,
something about like me needing a break from that.
mm-hmm.
I only work with people who I genuinely love and like care for just because we're always creating something and that's precious to me.
Yeah.
But for the most part, there are certain people who would only hang out with artists as an artist,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
that just wasn't my jam.
Yeah, yeah,
I wanted to learn from other people, but it also made it lonely, right? Because they wouldn't understand what I'm going through. But I also made friends with other YouTubers, other musicians, but I've learned early on that I'm not a competitive person. Like when it comes to like I have to beat you, like it doesn't motivate me. I'm not trying to
okay,
be number one.
right,
I'm trying to live as myself and survive.
yeah, yeah,
Because my own competition is like me at my lowest, the times I struggled. And so when I look at my life now and I measure success, I'm measuring as to like, how am I feeling? How am I doing?
yes, yes,
Because nobody lived my life. And I'm not saying it, I'm special. No one has lived your life.
yeah,
So we can't even compare because I'm not even going to sit down and try to explain to you like every little thing that's happened
right,
and to see if it even compares because it
right,
doesn't.
right,
It never will.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Man, okay, so back onto your journey here. Yeah, so okay, you kind of like you said you're super busy, over the weekends and stuff like that. But you eventually do you graduate? I don't really know what you
Yeah, so
Okay.
so I graduated early and I told myself that I wanted to have like the college experience, and I was paying for college myself too. I think that's a huge decision factor as to
Oh,
why I studied theater,
wow.
right? Like
Yeah.
if I'm gonna pay for it, I need to do something I'm gonna see through and I'm gonna enjoy. So as
Wow.
a theater major, I was taking out student loans, I got some grants, I got some scholarships, but I wanted to study abroad. So I told myself I could only study abroad in Paris if I graduate in 3 years. So I would take summer school. I took college credit courses in high school, just preparing for college. And I was just nonstop in school.
Wow.
And now, in hindsight, I was preparing myself to be the creative entrepreneur that I am today,
Yeah, it
where I'm
sounds like it.
juggling all these different aspects of creativity. And I didn't know it back then. Back then, I felt like this is the only thing I can do if I want to survive. But it was me putting in my 10,000 hours, right? As they say.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, it's like, man, that early on, in your very, very early 20s, right? It's like you already were setting goals and making plans and knew where you were headed in order for you to graduate in 3 years and have the life that you have now. So did you go to Paris?
I did. I studied abroad in Paris. I didn't know any French, and I made some of my closest friends there.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
like even from my like close friends, like my girls, like the ones that I see when I go to California, like they all studied abroad to Korea together.
Right.
And I was
Okay.
like, I could go to Korea on my own next time. I could go see family. I'm going to Paris. And it was like one of the best things I did because I like made new friends and had a different experience. But I think I've always been someone who wanted different things.
Mm.
But I embrace that.
Mhm, mhm.
There are times when you could feel lonely, and there are times where I'm like, oh, I feel alone in my wants and desires. But it's okay to feel different. And I still wanted to be close to the people who wanted different things for me too, as long as we want the best for each other.
Yes, man. I mean, what you're saying makes perfect sense and is super healthy if only everyone could think the same as that,
Sure, sure. I
which
mean,
is
it took
the
time.
challenge. Yeah,
Yeah, because we all like work off of insecurities.
right.
We want to either be like everyone else or not stick out, or you want to stick out, but not too much because then people will bully you. But I think like I've always been a community person.
Mm.
And going back to me being in the States with my mom and my brother, we were the only people in our family who are in America. Even to this day, I might have one other cousin, but blood related, it was just us. So
Oh,
friends were the
wow.
family that I chose, right?
Hmm, hmm.
So, I mean, in the midst of me being in school, being on a dance team, doing theater productions, performing on the weekends, still uploading YouTube videos, I still had like work study jobs. I
Did
worked.
you sleep, Jennifer?
No, I really didn't. I really
Oh my
didn't.
gosh.
No, yeah. I think about it back then. I would sleep like 4 hours. I would just be going off of adrenaline. I used to give housing tours, you know,
Yeah. Oh, oh, are
moving
you
backwards.
serious right now?
Yeah, I would give housing tours. And then towards the end, I was a peer counselor at the School of the Arts, which is what helped me connect with like professors who let me take classes early on and graduate early.
Wow, wow. Man, oh, to be young and so alive.
I know. Now I'm like, it's time.
That's amazing. Wow. You really did a lot you did it all. You did a lot of things, which brings us to today, I feel like, You're still doing it all. You're still doing a lot of things, but you graduate and you go to Paris. And after that, I'm wondering, like, did you have any plans? What were your new goals
Yeah,
post-graduation?
my plans honestly were to focus on music. I was like, you know what? I think music is the best chance I've got because I've got this following. People support me. They really like my original music. But it was hard. Like after I left my mom to go to college, like it was basically like good luck. And I had to live with roommates in Irvine. I There was a time where I would work at Raw Sushi as a hostess, clock out and go to work at Lollicup at a boba shop. And then sometimes I'd work at Sephora. And then sometimes I'd perform, right? And I'd be waiting for these gigs because back then there's no streaming. You could only make money doing shows, tours, selling merch. YouTube, like you couldn't really make money off of that either if a lot of your views are from covers, because back then they didn't allow that.
Oh, really?
So when people are like, oh, I made a lot of money on YouTube, I got on too early.
That's
But you know what? God had a
interesting.
plan. So it wasn't
No,
that I was too
yeah.
early. It was all God's plan. But YouTube, I think the biggest check I got off YouTube was $1,000. But since then, it hasn't been the same.
Oh, really? That is so
Yeah.
interesting. I had no
Yeah.
idea. I mean,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
don't know, I'm sure, but
Because Google AdSense didn't exist when I first joined, when
okay.
I got my millions of views. And then
Uh-huh.
now they're majority covers, right?
Okay,
So
and then
I'll get a. Mhm,
it comes from ads now is the money making
mhm.
thing.
Yeah. So like now, like I barely upload YouTube videos, but I'll get a check here and there. But I never did it for the money, but I did it
Mm-hmm.
for the opportunity, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So the perspective was I'd make more money singing for 30 minutes at a show than I did working a whole month, all these part-time jobs. And like, why did I have these part-time jobs? Because I needed the flexibility to potentially travel to do shows.
Mm,
I was going crazy. And then
yeah.
I had an opportunity to move to LA, and I was working all these other jobs. I was an ice cream scooper. I was working as a receptionist at a salon. I was a tutor. I was signed under management, and I got to record my first album, 4 Years and Counting, which is like on Spotify and stuff
Yes.
now. And it was like a great opportunity. I got to record at Paramount Studios, but it just felt miserable, like working all these jobs just so I can stay in LA, just so I could do music.
Yeah.
I think I had like a weird situation with my manager where I felt like I was being kind of stifled. Like I had sold out
Mm,
shows in LA, I had sold out shows in San Francisco, but for some reason I couldn't get opportunities to get my music on TV shows and or like commercials and new sync licensing.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, that was a whole thing. And then me feeling like, do I even have what it takes? But I think the commonality is that people have a really tough time in the early 20s.
Yeah.
It's just that I was a musician.
Right.
And
In
I wasn't
general,
even
and yes,
pursuing, yeah.
across the board, graduate life is like, what the heck am I doing?
Yeah.
And because everyone's told me what to do up until now, and then you have to figure out what to do, and then on top of that, you're like trying to make it for yourself in the music industry, which is a whole nother animal from what I understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Jennifer, if I could interrupt you just real quick,
Yes.
just for those like that are listening, and I'm curious too, like, so as far as like looking for a manager, like those kinds of things, like how does that process start for a person?
People just approach you. I
Oh,
didn't know
okay.
where to look.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know where to look. I'm sure there's like other ways that people do it now. I don't have a manager anymore.
Okay. Okay.
It got to the point where I was like, I could just do it myself.
Right. I mean,
I feel
these
like there's
days,
probably,
it doesn't
yeah,
seem
there's,
like it seems
yeah, there's probably
possible.
another level of like people who need a manager. But for me, I'm like, I'm okay right now to manage my own stuff.
Okay.
But when I was living in LA, I wasn't even pursuing acting at all.
Right.
I thought that was done after I
Okay.
graduated
I see.
college. I had desires and dreams of like still being on Broadway and all these things, but I didn't even have the mental capacity to pursue that.
Yeah, it
And yeah,
sounds crazy. And but honestly, Jennifer, listening to it right now, I'm like, dang girl, like I part of me like loves it because I mean, first of all, for me it's like, man, she really wanted it. You know, you really did what you had to do. I mean, to survive, I think,
mhm.
mostly, but at the same time, like the willingness to survive is not, let's be real, girl, is not a common thing these
Yeah,
days.
I think it's when young people ask me like, "Hey, how do I get my parents to support me in pursuing being an artist?" You know, I'm
Yeah.
like, "What do you mean support you?
Right.
Like you just want them to
To
like
like
be okay with it?"
like say, go ahead.
Yeah, because I was like, the only way that they can get off your back is if you're taking care of your own bills.
Yeah.
if you're still on your mom's phone plan, you still getting like your car payments paid by your dad, if they're helping you out with rent, I wouldn't trust you either.
Dang, you heard it here, folks.
I mean, like, you
let's
know what
get
I
real.
mean?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, that makes complete sense to me too. Like, if you're going to do something, you got to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay. So
I was struggling.
Yeah.
And I needed to get out. I always say, like, when I lived in Koreatown, Los Angeles, when there was a dark cloud following me.
God.
And I had an
horrible.
opportunity to, I know, I had an opportunity to go to Korea by doing like this singing competition.
Uh-huh.
And just note, like, I didn't want to be a singer in Korea, just knowing the standards that they have.
Sure.
I respect it very much. The artists work extremely hard and they're very talented, but it's just different from America.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the beauty standards are very crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad was in the music industry, so I think a part of him was also hesitant of me like going into it.
I see. Yeah.
Because when I was a freshman in high school, I was supposed to train in Korea, and I was supposed to go under SM Entertainment.
Oh, wow.
And I decided I wanted to stay in America. And I think about like how my life would have been completely different if I did that.
So completely different.
Yeah, I think it would have shaped me very differently. And I don't know if I would have become the songwriter that I am today.
Yeah.
I probably would have written different songs, but I'm shaped by the music I grew up listening to in America. So but then they were like, we're going to give you a round trip ticket. What's there to lose? And I was like, you know what? I'll take it. Cause I was literally like, what do you want me to do, Lord?
Mm-hmm.
So I went, and long story short, I got out of the show really quickly. I wasn't sad about it. For me, I was like, okay, now what's next? I ended up reuniting with my dad after 10 years, who lives in Korea. And it was like a moment of like reconciliation, right?
Amazing. That's
and
amazing.
From there, I ended up meeting publishers who I thought weren't interested in my music. And when I met them in person, they said they had never heard it before. And they now release my music for me whenever I do have new singles and albums. And they wanted to sign me as an indie artist. And I was teaching English as a private tutor and working at a radio station as a DJ there for their, English speaking radio stations.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And then I just continued making YouTube videos here and there. And then one day I noticed that someone liked one of my Instagram pictures, and
this is the story. Okay.
Yeah. So I uploaded a video on YouTube. I did a cover. I was like, oh, I uploaded the cover. And then I noticed that someone liked the photo. And I saw there's a small profile of a vintage Korean picture of a man. Later, I'd find out it was John's dad. John is my husband. Yeah. So I joked that his dad brought us together, but
yeah.
I looked at his profile and was like, oh, he's kind of cute. I could tell he loves the Lord. I can tell he does music, but I don't think I know him. But what's the worst that can happen? He's not going to come to Korea and kill me.
Right. So you messaged him?
Then there was no DMs then, so it was just comments.
Okay, comments. Oh, yes. No DMs.
I was like, then. I couldn't help but like this picture. Yeah, no DMs then. No sliding into the DMs. I was like, oh, I couldn't help but like this picture of him and his mom. And he responded back, and we exchanged emails, started Kakao talking. And then that week we were like, oh, we're supposed to be together.
Stop it. So
Yeah.
I knew it was kind of like this, but I didn't know it was that quick.
Yeah. And then actually our only mutual friend, the only person who could vouch for him was my friend Andy Shin. And he was also in the singing competition.
Oh.
So if I had never been on the show, I would have never met Andy. And I never would have had someone vouch that this John guy wasn't a weirdo.
Interesting. Wow.
Mm-hmm. So January 2013, we started talking. February 2013, I met him for the first time because I flew to Atlanta. And even that was God's affirmation for me, because I was like, okay, I need a break. We need to see each other in person to see if it's legit. I was like, does anyone have a buddy pass? And I was able to get a $500 round trip ticket to the Bay Area from Korea. And I was like, okay, I can see my mom. and John took care of my flight from San Francisco to Atlanta round trip. And then,
Dang.
but then I was like, $500 is still a lot of money to spend on someone you don't know. I was like, if you want this from me, please make it obvious. And as soon as I bought the ticket, a pastor from the church I was going to called me and said they're looking for a musician for this gala, and they paid me $1,000 to sing 2 songs. And so that covered my flight.
Okay.
So February, I meet him in person. We get engaged that week.
Are you serious right now?
And no ring. And then I go back to Korea and he's like, you should be here. And I'm like, but I'm not going to live with my boyfriend. He's like, let's get married. So we get married April. So we got married within 4 months.
Okay.
And that's why I'm in Atlanta.
That is so insane. And then, okay, hold on. Let's back up for a second. I have to know.
Okay.
Like, you guys said we knew we were supposed to be together, right? I mean, and honestly, even if looking back on my relationship with not my current husband, but my husband, my husband David, like I think I knew early on too, without even really saying it. And we were both still really young, so we were just kind of like not. But you were young too, right?
Yeah, I was 23.
That's super young too. Okay, but anyways, so like, but was there something that happened that you were like, oh, this is it? Or did he say something?
No, I mean, you mean like when he asked me to marry him?
No, even just like, you're like, I'm going to go to Atlanta.
I don't know. We just kept talking to each other. And I felt like for the first time, I met someone who was down to earth, was an artist, like a creative, but loved the Lord.
Okay.
And it's really hard to meet someone who's like just right. Because there's a lot of people who are either like so godly that like they kind of don't follow through with what might be their calling.
I feel you.
For whatever reasons. Yeah. And then there are artists who like don't acknowledge God because they think it'll stop them from doing their calling.
Interesting.
Because there's a lot to work through, right?
Yeah.
Like as an artist, there are things that you have to really wrestle with on whether it's for your glory or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
But I loved that I could tell John feared the Lord, trusted the Lord, and went through his own journey. Because if I had met him any sooner, I would have been like, no, you play too much. But he went through his own reconciliation with the Lord and come back to Jesus moment.
So really, it was God's timing, everything.
Totally. And we got married so fast. We didn't know what the heck we were doing.
No, it's funny because we just have mutual friends. And then I'm, friends with Minsu and John Kim. And then like, they told me that they were going to LA for this wedding. And I'm like, Jennifer Chung? Like, is this like the YouTuber Jennifer Chung?
And that week I visited John for the first time, I met Minsu and Namu for the first time too.
Yeah, I mean, and okay, so if you don't, this is some background. So like who I'm talking about is Jennifer's husband's like best friend. And so that's what this like kind of like whole full circle
and they
thing
had just
happening.
Married the December before.
Yes.
And everyone was asking him, when are you gonna get married? And John's like, not for another 10 years.
I'm not surprised by the answer. I don't know John well. You're John well. But like the little I do know of him, and just by the way, everything you were saying, the little I know about John, he is an extremely solid guy and super humble. And I just love every time I interact with the both of you, just outside of wherever we see each other randomly. But all that to say, that is an amazing story. I'm just like, yeah, so you guys got married. And, I'm curious, both of you are artists, what was that part of like just the connection? It had to have been, right? Like just your love for the creativity of things.
Yeah, I think that's where we really felt like God had brought us together, because only we could understand the uncertainties of what that means. I'm sure him being a dude in Georgia, I'm sure there were a lot ladies he was interested in, maybe they didn't give him a chance because he couldn't promise them stability,
Interesting.
you know?
Yeah.
But then for me, like, I'm used to unstable.
Yeah.
That is normal.
Yeah.
But the goal we both have is to find the stability with faith in God, hard work, and teamwork.
Amazing.
And it's taken a long time.
I love
like
all
we've
of
been married
this
8 years now.
Has it already been that long?
Yeah,
Holy
8 years.
smokes.
And everyone's like, oh my gosh, like 4 months is so fast. I'm like, yeah, I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
Don't do it
man.
unless you're really sure.
So okay, you guys get married, and I know that's a big chunk of your story and part of your journey up until now. You said you guys have been together for 8 years, which I can't believe how time flew by. But yeah, so I mean, with this okay, first of all, you moved to Atlanta. I know my move from Atlanta to UCI to Irvine, which is like the mildest part of California, right? Like,
very mild.
was extremely like culture shocking for me.
Yeah.
For you moving to Atlanta, was it like smooth sailing, or was there some adjustment period for you?
Major adjustment. At that time, like, John wasn't hanging out with a lot of Korean people, and I didn't realize like my Asian privilege, where I was just used to hella Asians around me.
Yes, and I was not moving to Irvine.
Right. UCI is a joke for University of Civics and Integras, or University of Chinese Immigrants. But there's a lot of Asians. And then at that time, John was living with a couple roommates, and they were both Black. I love them. But I just wasn't used to doing life with more Black people, right? Whether it's because I grew up in a certain part of the Bay Area or going to UC Irvine. A lot of people like hang out with people who are their ethnicity naturally.
Yeah.
But it was one of the best things that could happen to me. Like, my best friend is Black. And like, the thing is about being with other Koreans is I don't have to have a conversation with you, and I know probably how you were raised or probably the things that you dealt with. But the goal is like, how can we expand the conversation? So it took me a long time to find people I thought I could do life with. But it takes time, because when you're moving to a new area, they have their day ones. But I also feel like God brought me here so that I could focus on what I had to build rather than just constantly being in community.
Yeah.
That loneliness is a part of the serum for me. It's in my loneliest where I write music. It's in my loneliest where I can spend time with God and really think about like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. So I feel like I've really been digging into your personal life, Jennifer, but I mean, you brought up just now just the songwriting, and in your loneliness, that's where you kind of draw your inspiration. So for those listening that are interested in songwriting and music and things like that, like, what is that process like for you as far as writing songs? Because my husband is musical, but I am like totally not. Like, and so I have no clue what that even looks like. How does it look for you? And maybe even like, how does it look for you and John together?
Yeah, I mean, great question. When I was younger, I realized that the way that I would de-stress or find calmness was making up songs. I'm not very good at playing instruments, but my voice is my instrument, and I would make up melodies in my head. So that's how I start. I have a melody in my head that goes with the words that I'm feeling. So I usually write a song from beginning to end myself without any instruments.
And now I would imagine that's difficult for most people.
Yeah, I think it's difficult for most people because they can play other things, which is difficult for me.
I see.
But for me, like, I use this as my instrument, and like my mind from like probably inspirations that I've had, or when a certain word sounds or feels a certain way, that's what I'm exuding. And when I came out with my album recently, like, that's why Sam Ock and I work really well together, because he's so talented with instrumentation too. So I could like sing him something and he'll fill it with the background music.
Oh,
Or I hear
wow.
something in my head and I could sing it to him and he could fill that too. For John and I, like, it's funny though, because like our music creating process is very different. So it just shows like when we can make something, it means something. But it is really hard to work with your spouse.
Right. I can imagine. I don't try. So
We're both like untraditional when it comes to making the music that we do. Because he would say himself, like, he's not like classically trained or anything,
right.
but he is a beat maker and he's very disciplined in engineering
Sure, yeah.
and learned everything on his own because he was a business major and he
Mm.
went out of his way to study, no, create, like, study himself on how to become a music engineer and like make beats, and was an intern at a recording studio, then promoted to nighttime manager
Wow.
at a studio called Icon, where Justin Bieber recorded, Jeezy, like all these like people. And that's also how we were able to communicate, because he was working from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. at the recording studio and I was in Korea.
Oh my gosh. That's
Yeah.
insane.
So you never know, y'all.
Yeah.
Like, just pursue your dreams
Yeah.
and then you might meet your spouse because you guys are in the same time zone.
Yes, more of the story.
But
I
yeah,
love it.
songwriting, it's always been about what am I feeling? I'm writing and finding the right people to work with.
Mm. Is that hard, finding the right people to work with?
Yes. And for the longest time, I felt less than because I couldn't do everything on my own. But in the long run, I found it as a gift because one, it's very humbling if you can't do everything by yourself. And two, you're creating a community. And three, it's something so much more special when you can collaborate and find those people. I am not the type of person who wants to make music with a lot of people. And it's just because of who I am. I like small groups. I like intimate groups. I'm not trying to like make music everywhere with everyone, but that's just a personal preference. And I think as artists, if you're out there listening, it's okay to find what works for you and find your people and like think about why. Like, take time thinking about why. And for me, it's because like I get really invested in people. So if I work with too many people, it'll just be too much for me.
Right. Yeah.
But I like playing fair. I want everything to be even. And another thing is, the more people in the room, the more people you have to split it with. And it's already hard making money, living doing music.
Yeah, no, I would imagine that that's kind of something that you have to consider when you're doing these things too. And um oh gosh, I was going to ask you something but it slipped my mind, but that's okay. So how do you go about, so you come up with all these songs and then you record it and then someone produces it for you, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, either there are a few songs where I actually had a guitar and I would write it and I'd play it for somebody else so that they can make it sound better in the recording. But nowadays, like with technology, you could just have someone, a good producer, like produce the track with different instrumentation just off the keyboard, and you record it, you got to mix it, you got to master it, and then you got to let it out there and upload it in music distribution. Probably kind of like how you do your podcast. There's like services that
Right.
upload it for you.
Right. Okay. So like there's different services and platforms and then it'll send it out to all the other platforms.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So for example, one that I like to use right now is called DistroKid. And DistroKid's really cool because if you're collaborating with other people and they have their own account, they do the splits for you.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you don't have to worry about it then.
Right. But then like back then it wasn't like that.
Right.
It's like you either have to come up with the money to pay someone up front or whatever.
That sounds stressful.
Yeah, which was why I was like, I can't afford this life.
Yeah.
So a part of my journey too is like walking away from music for a long time. When I first moved to Georgia, I wasn't sure if I was going to do music anymore.
Because you were discouraged?
I just didn't have the community. And I was
right.
It's okay. I need to work on my marriage anyway. So I was working from home doing like some online marketing stuff. And then I worked at Lululemon as a sales associate, but they call it educator. I was an educator, but I actually really fell in love with the company. And I was there for like a year and a half. And I thought that's what I was going to do. But out of the blue, like I got asked to be on The Voice. And
The
so I
show?
was on
The
season,
TV show?
yeah, yeah, I was on season 8 of The Voice. But even that, I was like, that came out of nowhere. And I thought I knew God took that as an
What do
opportunity
you mean
to,
you were asked? Like they like pursue people?
yeah, they email you and they ask you to come through.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, some people do the open calls.
Uh-huh,
Some
uh-huh.
people get to like pass a few rounds. Like I got to go straight to blinds pretty much. I didn't
Oh,
do the
wow.
cattle
I
call,
mean, I'm not
but
surprised, but
no, but I was
yeah.
grateful because I hadn't been really doing music at that point.
Okay.
Maybe like a year and a half in of being in Georgia, I wasn't really doing much music,
Mm-hmm,
just
mm-hmm.
figuring out who I was. I was 23, 24.
Yeah, I mean that's totally normal. That's what right when I had a career change as well. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
so but then my boss at Lululemon was like, Jennifer, just go for it. You have a job whenever you come back, you know?
Wow. That I mean,
Yeah.
sounds
And
like you were building your own community as well there too.
yeah.
But
And so when I went on this competition, I was like, oh, do I want to do this? But I was surrounded by all these talented people. And the thing is, all they wanted was a chance to be heard. And they all thought they had what it took. Right. And
oh,
it was a reminder to me. I felt like God was challenging me, like, do you want to squander everything you've built?
wow.
Are you done?
Wow.
And I was like, I guess I'm not done. But I didn't get any chair turns. And I was like, why am I here? I was like crying, like, this was such a waste of time. But it actually was the thing that I needed to be like, okay, maybe I'm not quite done with arts.
Mm.
So then soon after I quit Lululemon, and then I was trying to do YouTube again, still a struggle. Ended up working at a startup. I was working as like a, oh my gosh, customer service associate.
Oh man.
But as soon as I got that job, I won this Delta giveaway to go to the Grammys. And
Are
I
you
was like,
for real? You're
yes.
it's almost like you're like, you know what? It's too tough, God. So I'm just gonna do
Yeah.
this for a while. And when you're ready to encourage me, you know what to do. That's what it's like.
No, it's like, all right, I guess I'm done. And then like he always throws a curveball, like, are
Yeah.
you sure? And then, but then I know like working at my startup was a huge learning experience. And at that time, I also got signed with my acting agent.
Wow. Okay, so okay, just real
I
quick.
know it's so messy.
No, it's not messy. I just want to do a good job of like, championing your journey is all. Is what I'm trying to do. Because each moment, it truly is like eye-opening for me, and to hear how hard you've worked and you being let down but overcoming it is what I like really want to highlight, because that's the nitty gritty of it all. I think, again, just to echo what I started talking about in the very beginning of our chat, is like we just see the outside. We don't know what really goes on what's really going on. And you said you try to start YouTube up again. I'm curious, like, even to make a video and upload it, um, like, is not something that happens in 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Like, how long does it take to like even just do that?
Well, here's the thing. For me, I would do it in 10 minutes. But
Okay.
that's because I don't like to try too hard.
Yeah, but then okay, I like that, because that means it's just you're putting content out there, which is sometimes from what I understand, more important than.
Yeah, I mean, like Gary Vee likes to say quantity over quality.
Yeah.
Like consistency is really important. But for me as a singer, it taught me to be a good live singer.
Oh.
I'm not going to do this 5 more times and like cut the perfect take.
Right.
I'm going to sing this and I'm going to do it once, maybe twice, 3 times tops, and we're going to upload it.
Okay. No, yeah. That makes
after a certain
sense.
time, right?
Yeah.
So it trained me to be like, I'm going to create this and I'm just going to upload it. I'm just going to let it be what it is.
Oh man. Okay. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
I keep interrupting.
So I mean, like even like getting to go to the Grammys was so bizarre. all taken care of. And I felt like God was saying, like, are you sure we're done with this again? And I'm like, I don't know. And then with my acting agency,
Oh,
I'm signed with
yes.
an agency called People Store, which is one of the like OG pioneer, like head acting agencies here.
In
They do
Atlanta?
TV, film. They do TV and film and commercial.
So why did you
But
go with this agency like in the middle of your working at the startup? Like you knew you wanted to go
so
back?
no, so they found me on LinkedIn. I don't know how. So what happened was they were thinking of creating an influencers department,
Okay.
but then in my mind I was like, I'm not that much of an influencer, but I guess like in terms of like Georgia YouTubers, there aren't that many. And they had me come in and I was like, hey, I was actually a theater major. Could I try to be represented in TV and film and commercial? And they were like, yeah. So they had me read for them an audition and I got signed, and that influencers department never happened.
That is insane. How does this even
Yeah,
happen?
it doesn't.
That's
So
amazing.
so I was working my 9 to 5, and sometimes I'd ask if I could go on certain shoots. There's this thing called industrials. Do you know what those are?
No.
So this is technically the commercial department, but there's huge brands that have shoots, production, like high quality ones just for internal. So I've done industrials for Home Depot, McDonald's,
Oh, okay,
etc.
okay. That makes sense. Like
So yeah,
for their people, for their employees and
right.
stuff.
Whether
Okay.
it's like for their huge conferences or their HR videos, their training videos, etc. So for a good few years, that's all the work I was getting, industrials. So nobody would see me in them unless they work there.
But you were working.
Yeah.
That's
So
insane.
I was a working actor. And then a part of me was like, oh, that's funny. I guess this is what I'll do for the rest of my life. I'll just do industrials here and there. Do you know the company MailChimp?
Yeah.
So for example, I'm a muse at MailChimp where like I'm a character. Like I'm one of their like training, when they're training their employees, I'm one of the clients. I'm
Oh,
there,
what?
like, yeah, like, so it's like things like that.
Oh, wow. But no one would ever know unless you tell
Unless they
them.
work there. So like randomly I'll have friends who message me and be like, is this you? And they like just got a job at MailChimp.
That's so funny. That is
Yeah.
so funny. Now that you mention it, I'm like, have I seen you somewhere?
Maybe. But yeah, and so like I was working at the 9 to 5 doing that. Wasn't really doing music, but I got the opportunity to run social media actually for a friend's brother-in-law who was running for a Democrat candidate. So that's where I started doing like social media managing for other people.
Oh, wow.
And then I transitioned out of my job at the 9 to 5. And I
Okay.
did a Kickstarter for my album.
I remember
And I was,
this.
yeah. And since for that, like I hadn't released music for like 5 years or something. And then I did, I was able to raise like $16,000 so I could pay everyone involved fairly what they wanted. And that was like the start of me doing music again and like coming out with new
Mm,
music.
wow. That's amazing. So like for you right now, like 2021 Jennifer, like I said, you do a lot of things, you know, acting, singing, songwriting, and definitely want to talk about the life coaching at before we end today. But like, do you have like a I want to be here in 10 years kind of thing?
Yeah, I want to be doing what I'm doing now,
Mm,
just more experiences under my belt.
okay. Yeah.
Cuz like I would say that my husband and I have done a great job living lives as creatives, being our own bosses and having stability,
Mm-hmm.
which is a huge feat in itself.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always like new levels that we could unlock. And when it comes to music, it's up to me to release music and write. right now I'm in the season where I feel like I'm called to do Today Worthy with my life and creative coaching and acting. Because in 2019, I booked my first co-star role on a TV show.
Yes, I saw it and I was like screaming. Oh,
Thank you. Me too.
I was screaming. Okay, you're talking. Wait, you were on a few.
Well, so the first one was Lovecraft Country on HBO.
Yes, I don't watch that one, but
It's
then
scary.
okay, that's probably why I won't watch it. But
The Resident?
yes, so The Resident is like something I watch regularly, and I
That's
did
so
not
funny.
know you were going to be on it. And then I started watching it, and I was like, what? And then I rewound it, you know, and I was like, no way. But like, you know, it's you. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go check on social media right now. But yes, The Resident, I mean, like, that was a big role. I mean, it's a big role. It's a big show. And I mean, Lovecraft Country is
co-star role.
but
you know, there are no small parts. There's only small actors.
No, there are no small parts, girl. I mean, it's not like any of us are on The Resident, okay?
No, but I appreciate you acknowledging like that it isn't, because I talk about it with my actor friends all the time. We audition so many times. It takes a lot of work to get one part.
Okay, and so can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Like, what does that mean? You audition for a lot of things for one small part, and I'm sure that's everyone's auditioning for this one small part, right?
Yeah. So the big thing is you can have an agent, or you can be self-submitting. It's definitely helpful to have an agent, because casting directors believe that they've done their job to find talent that they believe in already.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, The Resident, the casting directors are looking for a specific character. They have a description. They'll send it out to casting. They'll send it out to agencies that represent actors. And then the TV film agents will submit the talent that they think will be right for this role.
Okay.
The resume and photo.
Okay.
From my understanding, the casting directors pretty much look at your photo, maybe glimpse on your resume, and decide if they want to give you an audition.
Just like they look you once over and that's it.
Yeah. So that's why it's important to have a good headshot, and a headshot that represents you. There's no point in your headshot looking great if it doesn't look like you.
Right.
So when you get an audition, they say, I think I saw online, it's like 5,000 people might be submitted by agencies, and then maybe 20 to 50 people will get an audition.
That's crazy.
So when you get an audition, you've already passed round one.
Oh my gosh.
And then sometimes you get a callback, where you have to do another callback, either with just the casting director, maybe with producers.
Okay, so the audition part, you go in and then they have you read something?
So they used to do more in person, but now with COVID and stuff, it's been tape.
Oh.
The Resident, I booked off tape.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I submitted my video because my agents had already submitted for me. I got an audition, and then I recorded what they wanted me to, a few takes. And then a few weeks later, I heard the news that I got it.
Okay, and so on The Resident, it's not like you say a lot, okay?
No.
But then, like, how do you submit this tape? Like, through actions? Yes?
Yeah, you're pretty much like reenacting like what you imagine you'd be doing. That
is so much work. And like so
yeah,
so difficult.
You gotta picture it. You gotta picture it, and you're submitting varying takes. But my first one, Lovecraft Country, which was for HBO, that was in person. I auditioned in person. I had a callback in person. And then this, for The Resident, I booked off tape.
Wow.
But there are certain times where I audition, I get a callback, and I don't hear from them. Here's the thing about acting. If they don't want you, you don't hear.
There's no like closure. There's not like, we don't want
Never.
you.
Never. That's why acting is very gut-wrenching. You have to have really thick skin, and you have to really love it and enjoy it.
Do you?
I do.
Oh, good. good.
It's fun, but I think I'm able to do this because it's not my only thing that I do.
Right, right. It's not like your
But
only
there,
source of
yeah,
income.
I think as an artist, like the biggest lie I was told personally, it's a lie to me, was that I have to be a master at one thing.
Huh.
And now that I'm older and I have this relationship with God, I think like in this world, I'm never supposed to be a master.
Mm.
Like he is my master.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
here just doing what I love, and that's the privilege I have. But
So
also
good.
as a songwriter, as an actor, social media management, life coach, I can focus where I feel like I'm being tugged.
Mm.
For the clients that I have, I only take so many clients. I'm booked till the end of the year because I told myself I could only take this many clients, and I'm devoted to them.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like songwriting and acting and stuff, like I'll take it as it comes.
A little more
Right now,
fluid.
totally.
Okay.
And for music too, like I technically have not released any new music this year,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been doing music long enough where people still consider me a singer-songwriter first.
Yes. And
And that's,
I do too, actually, I think, in my head.
yeah, and that's my privilege because I've done the work. I've put in the time. I wrote a song. I've performed it a couple times, but I just haven't recorded and released it yet.
Mm.
But I don't feel coupé or rushed to
Yeah.
do it
Yeah.
because right now I really feel like God has been affirming me with acting.
Yes. Yes. That's awesome.
And like I had a commercial that I shot not too long ago just go live like 3 weeks ago. I just noticed it yesterday, like 2 days ago, so I uploaded it. And then I'm shooting another commercial next week. I just booked another TV episode, which is really cool. And so I'm
so
just getting the
excited for
affirmations,
you.
you know? Thank you. And like for people who don't know, like when I say I got a co-star role is 5 lines or less.
Oh, I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then after from co-star, it's guest star.
And you get
and
more
then there's recurring
lines?
guest star.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And then there's recurring guest star. And then there's like recurring and then lead.
I see. So like, for example, I guess a guest star on The Resident would be like if you were a patient or something.
Totally. You
Okay.
got it.
Okay.
You got it.
Gotcha. Everyone check out
But you
The
know what?
Resident.
I'm saying hopeful because I'm a lab tech and you know she's still working at the hospital. You never know.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. Man,
So
okay.
it's been really cool, like, because, you know, also as artists, we feel like we have to find success at a young age.
No.
But, like, I didn't get my first co-star role until, like, 4 years later after I got signed with my agency.
No, I'm convinced that 30s that's
the best,
best.
right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
the best.
It really is. Man. Well, I feel like we could talk forever, but before we end our time together, Jennifer, I really do. I want to talk about your life coaching stuff because, I mean, just from your experience and everything that you've done, it seemed as though, you have really been able to articulate and identify your identity as a person. Like you feel you're confident, you know what you want, and you know what it takes to get what you want. So for me, it would be clear. Yeah, like you have the tools. And I'm to hear that you're coaching people to help them through whatever it is that they need to navigate through. It sounds right, for me. I feel like, yeah, that's definitely something you should be doing. And I'm encouraged by your investment into our generation. So, how did that even come about for you? Like, even though it makes sense to me, I don't know, were you okay, honestly, it seems like kind of like a big step to say, hey,
Sure.
I have the tools you need, So what came about? Like, how did it happen?
So when I booked HBO, I was physically at my heaviest weight.
Really?
And I bring this up because growing up Korean, growing up as an artist in front of people would make me feel insecure about my body, including my parents, including other people's parents. And like, people are always in your business. But what baffled me was like, hey, like this has never stopped me from doing what I got to do and achieving what I wanted to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got HBO at my heaviest, I felt like God was saying, it's not about that. You have it. You have it, whatever that is. And if I could do that when I'm not feeling so healthy, imagine what I could accomplish when I'm healthy. And I've had health scares. I had found like a benign pituitary gland tumor not too long ago.
Oh, goodness.
And like just dealing with like hormonal stuff, dealing with depression. But I had hired a health coach at the beginning of 2020. And that's when I learned about nutrition for the first time. And then I hired a therapist.
Oh, wow.
3 months after that.
Yeah.
And I was just like in this mode of like, I'm just going to work on me. Unbeknownst to us, it was going to be the pandemic.
Yes. Yes.
And it was just perfect timing though, because I could really focus on myself. And from there, I was learning from a coach who was teaching me what she learned. But I realized like when I was looking for coaches, there weren't people who looked like me. And I realized that finding a coach or a therapist is very normalized in especially white communities. And we're a little behind when it comes to the Asian community.
Yeah, I agree.
And like, yeah, I learned a lot from my white coach. But I think there's a lot that people can learn also from an Asian coach.
Yeah, for sure.
And I was like looking into it, and becoming a coach is not something that's actually regulated by one group. There's like a bunch of accreditation that you could get. But at the end of the day, like think about like who coaches like basketball teams in high school or whatever. They're just people who are rooting for you.
Yeah.
And having like relations with you. And as someone who still works with my therapist to this day, I don't work with the coach anymore. Like the difference is like when I have my therapy session, I'm like, see you next month. Whereas for my coaching, it would be like chiming in, like, what's going on? How are you today? Checking in and being more flexible with that and finding a game plan. And so I decided like, I want to offer what I have available to me.
Wow.
And I want to be there for people to let them know if I could do it, you could do it too.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's not like I have everything figured out, but let's figure it out together. And also let's normalize asking for help. And with coaching and stuff, like, everything costs money, like even with therapy. But when you believe that it's going to work out, it's a very worthy investment. So for me, like hiring my health coach was not cheap, but I learned things that will take me on forever. And now I have my own clients.
That's good.
But I think a lot of times we're afraid to invest in ourselves. And I'm trying to normalize that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not something I think culturally that we're used to, right? Asking for help or telling people that we need help or like saying this is difficult, this life is challenging, right? We're just supposed to be overcomers and grit our teeth and just move forward sometimes. And I hope that is changing, but I love that your heart is to normalize, hey, let's do this together, not by ourselves. Which is, I think, is a humbling place to be, but also like such a great place to have a community that believes in you. And it seems like that is the goal of Today Worthy in itself and what I've seen so far. And I am so excited. I will say, I think if I can be like fully transparent, I think the platform that you've created, right? And also who you are and the transparency that you have with people through your social media, through YouTube or whatever it is, allows an open door for other women to come in and say, hey, you know what? This girl is so real and doesn't hide the fact that she has challenges and struggles or needs help. not only does she ask for it or tell people, like she overcomes and she does what she says she's going to do. And I think for that alone is like, it's, I mean, that would be why I would sign up, you know, like as a client, because you put in the work first. And I think the example you've set for a lot of people here in Atlanta has been huge. So I'm super thankful that you're part of this community here in the South now.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And a part of it is like when I have a win, it feels like a win for my clients too,
Yeah,
because we're
yeah,
walking through this together.
yeah, yeah.
And I always say, like, especially for my clients that are of Asian descent, I'm always telling them, I'm giving you permission, not that you need permission from me, but in case you needed to verbally hear it from somebody else, it's okay to do this. It's okay to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of it starts with like creating boundaries so that you could do what you got to do.
Yeah, that's good. Man. Oh gosh, again, I feel like we could talk forever. I could talk to you forever. But
Me too.
okay, well, I always ask all of my guests before we end our time together, if you have any advice. You've given a lot of great advice, but like, let's be, I guess, more specific. Anyone, do you have advice for anybody that is thinking about going into a music career or pursuing that, or an acting career in particular?
Sure. So a lot of putting yourself out there is the fear of rejection, right? Whether it's like, no one's going to listen to my songs. I'm never going to book that role. I haven't heard back from this casting director. People aren't reposting my songs. But a part of the reason why I named my life and creative coaching business Today Worthy is because I want people to know, like, you are worthy today, even before someone co-signs, like, yeah, I think I like this song. Or like, yeah, you know what? You are deserving of my compliments and my praise. You don't need that. You need to know that. Yeah. And everyone else has the privilege of experiencing your art because you're sharing something very vulnerable, and most people are not willing to do that because they're afraid of judgment. But you are putting yourself in a position where you will be judged. But if you already know that you're worthy today, that might hurt a little bit, but it's not going to be the thing that stops you.
Yeah, that's so good. That's really good. I need to hear that myself.
Yeah. And you're doing an incredible job with this podcast.
Oh, you're
like
so
I
sweet.
got to listen to a few episodes. I have so much more to listen to because I didn't know like a lot of these jobs even existed. It's like such a different world for me outside of the creative world too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I feel you.
yeah, and everything is of value. And we need to hear that there are other opportunities that people can have. But the biggest thing is you have to be willing to do things that people aren't willing to do if you want to do those things.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, listening to everything today that you said, and for me, it's like, man, a lot of it is putting yourself out there. And if you're not willing to do that, right? And then, because you're going to be criticized. You know what I mean? Like that would be me. I don't like rejection. I think even sometimes I get scared to ask people to do interviews with me because I'm like, I just don't want them to say no. And so, but yeah, it's putting yourself out there and being bold. And what you said, yes, I love it. Just knowing today, you are worthy. And if you have, faith in Jesus, knowing who you're worthy in God, is just really the only thing. Nothing can stop you after that, right? Like if you know what that means to you. So, man,
something
so
that John
good.
always says is like, it was never supposed to get this far, right? We were supposed to just be in harmony, worshiping God. It's gotten this far. So everything is a privilege. Like us getting to do music, us getting to create, all of this is extra.
Yeah. Yeah. That's puts like my entire life into perspective.
Yeah,
Everyone's life.
it's a good reminder. Yeah, it's a good reminder for me.
Yeah, for sure. Man, Jennifer, thank you so much for your investment today. Like, I am so grateful for your story and your journey. I know you're a busy woman, but I have to ask
It's
if
because of the house thing.
no. But I mean, we just heard your life and it's busy, okay? But if there's anybody maybe interested in anything you said today, would you be okay with me connecting you maybe through email or something if they have any
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah. I mean, you can always find me on social media. And if you're curious about being part of like a safe community of people who are wanting to do and pursue new things in their life, like I have a private community for Today Worthy. We have our own Discord. So you could just go to like todayworthy.com to find out more about it, or go to patreon.com/todayworthy. And we are basically in community, and we have our own Discord, and we get on monthly calls together. And if there's any like workshops or anything that I'm hosting, like all my members always get to be a part of it. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know.
Awesome. That's awesome. I'll have to get that information for you from you and post it somewhere.
Yes,
Um,
please.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Jennifer. You guys, thanks so much for your time today. If you have any questions or are interested in the episode today, feel free to DM me or email me at podcastwigu@gmail.com, and I'll get you to the right people, connect you to Jennifer, of course. Thanks for listening, guys. Until next time. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you. Bye.